Welcome to a brief introduction about Austrian-Egyptian economic and business relations. My name is Martin Woller. I'm head of Advantage Austria here in Cairo. I have been so for the last 5 years, and I'm happy. It's my pleasure to briefly introduce some of the past, some of the economic business relations we're sharing between Austria and Egypt, introduce a bit of Advantage Austria Cairo, who we are, what we do, why we do it, and in addition, finally, present to you some of the success stories that Austrian companies have been able to achieve in cooperation with their Egyptian partners. Let me start by some history. Interestingly, Egypt and Austria have done quite a bit of business, especially in the area of the end of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy. And it's quite noteworthy that in 1837 already, there was a direct shipping route between Trieste and Alexandria operated by the Österreichische Lloyd, and that included postal service. I believe that's quite significant. Another example I'd like to mention is the Austrian engineer Alois Negrelli. He could be and maybe should be a very famous man. Unfortunately, he's not so famous anymore, but he provided the original draft for the Suez Canal construction. He then was named Inspector General, and in this function he would certainly have been a very famous man. Unfortunately, he died before construction could start, and as such his name is not always mentioned in connection with the Suez Canal, though it should. Before World War I, there were quite vivid trade relations between Austria and Egypt. And one example I'd like to mention is that 80% of all the tabouche, the headgear, the famous one, all of 80% that Egypt imported from anywhere in the world actually came from the Austro-Hungarian monarchy. So that's quite a success story back then, I guess. During the World Wars, of course, business relations were quite shallow. But nonetheless, in January 1951, so very briefly after World War II, our office here, the Austrian Trade Commission in Cairo, was established. One of the first to be established on the African continent, in the Arab world. And ever since, we have been here, my predecessors have been here, my colleagues have been here, trying to support business between Austria and Egypt. That brings us to the present. Where are we now? What do we see? Where are the trade relations we are seeing unfold? And we see that Austrian exports, you see this on the graph, that Austrian exports are much more than Egyptian exports. Why is that? It's a bit of a long story. Egypt for Austria is the third largest export market in Africa, which is a good thing. However, it should be much more, to be honest, for the size of the economy that Egypt has, for the proximity of the two countries, business and trade should be much more. Nonetheless, the development, the trend is a good one. It's an upward slope. It has some difficulties, of course. You can see them in 2017. After the devaluation 2016, it got a bit more difficult. However, the trend is all right, but the potential is much bigger and there should be much more business. From an Egyptian perspective, the exports, you see they are less than the Austrian ones. However, you have to be careful with those numbers because in my understanding, the typical exports of Egypt coming to Europe go to some big trading houses, and maybe they are not necessarily included in the specific Austrian numbers. So what is it that Austria sends to Egypt and Egypt sends to Austria? Well, from the Austrian perspective, I would say it's a very normal distribution. One of the usual products Austria sends anywhere in the world, so the bread and butter business of Austria is machinery, be it mechanical, be it electrical. This we export anywhere in the world, and this is also a large chunk of value and volume that Austria exports to Egypt. Another big issue because of the big steel industry in Egypt is the iron and steel products. Also the pharmaceutical sector gets a lot of raw material and products from Austria. And maybe a bit of a surprise and a bit of a a speciality in the Austrian exports to Egypt case is that large part of paper and pulp paper, which is quite extraordinary. Unfortunately, you also see that the food and drink segment is very limited, and we wish that more Egyptians could profit from great Austrian food and drinks. But the import process and the import procedures are a bit challenging for the small Austrian companies, and as such, this segment decreased. Looking on the other hand, and looking more specific to the Egyptian exports to Austria, again, we see the usual things Egypt exports to anywhere in the world. This is also what they export to Austria. We have a lot of textile, we have cotton products. Obviously, the fruit and vegetable, we Austrians enjoy very much, the Egyptian mango and strawberry that we don't grow in Austria. In addition, we see some glass and glassware, some plastics, and of course, some of the famous salt that Austria then uses to melt the ice in the winter. So you see, and that's, in my point of view, very important that the trade relations are based on a very stable foundation. There are many legs holding these trade relations up. However, and this helps us to compensate for shocks, but in both directions, the potential is much, much more and much, much bigger, and we should all work to increase this trade. Moving on to a bit of an introduction of who we are, what we do, and why we do it. Advantage Austria is part of a network of more than 100 offices around the world. Our parent, our headquarter in Austria is the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. And we moved from being an export promotion body to a trade promotion body, and nowadays to a fully fledged internationalization agency. What does that mean? So any kind of Austrian company that wants to engage in any kind of business with, in our case, Egypt, Sudan, and Libya, but in the end, with all countries in the world, can and should approach us, and we are trying to help them. It doesn't matter if they want to export products, if they want to offer services, if they want to offer technology, if they want to provide innovative solutions, if they look for partners for educational projects. We are here to help. We're trying to help, find the right information, find the right partners, and in the end, help that all those projects are successful. You see the name Advantage Austria, and some of you might be a bit confused. What does that mean? Why Advantage Austria? So if you do business with Austria, then it's the advantage of Austria? No, we try to think not. We believe that any kind of company, be it Egyptian or from any country in the world, that does business with Austria, in the end, will have an advantage, because the Austrian products are better than other products, the services are more ingenious, etc., etc. So that brings us to the topic of our brands. You also see that we always talk about surprisingly ingenious. What do we mean by that? Maybe you are familiar with a lot of brands in your daily life, and you're like, okay, where is the Austrian brand? I don't know any Austrian brand. Why is that? Well, the reason being that we don't have those many famous brands that are visible to the public, to the general eye, but they're often hidden. So that's why we say it's surprisingly ingenious how ingenious Austrian companies are. If you know them in the sector, you will not be surprised. But usually, you are not the expert in all the different industry, and you cannot look into kind of machinery and factories and you know, oh, this important part is from Austria. So that's why we call it surprisingly ingenious. On this note, I would like to show you a small video that strengthens this point. So you have seen from the video that, of course, Austria is rich in tradition, rich in culture. We have the famous Sacher cake, we have music, we have tourism, we have nature. Well, we are proud of that, but we would not like Austria to be defined solely by those things. We believe Austria is much more, that Austrian technology, that Austrian industrial know-how products, they are ingenious, for some of you surprisingly ingenious, and this is what we are, my colleagues, myself, are showing all around the world. Austrian companies are proving it on a daily basis around the world, that Austria is much more than our traditional things we are known for. Coming to the examples in Egypt, you will see that Austrian companies are very active in any kind of area, be it the normal construction and infrastructure area, water technology, environmental technology, energy and renewable energy, industry solutions, and of course, the consumer goods. So those are the ones we know of, those are the ones we can see. So let me first introduce you, maybe all of you have been to a coffee shop company and enjoyed a coffee on the Nile or somewhere else in Cairo. And this, of course, is an Austrian franchise system. Most of you, when you feel tired, you might have a little Red Bull or a Powerhouse Austrian energy drink to push you through the busy Cairo day. If you're more on the fruity side, you might know Rauch fruit juice, which is very famous and enjoyed all over Egypt and many other Arab countries. And in case you have a sweet tooth, you might know the Mannerweber and many other Austrian biscuits that you can always have a little snack in between. Those are the visible ones. Those are one of the more famous brands. But as mentioned, in terms of overall trade, in value and volume, they are only a small part. For instance, you might not be aware that during your day with consuming dairy products, ice cream, baking products, that you might enjoy some Austria inside, because the Austrian company Agrana, with their partner Nile Fruits, is producing fruit preparations and fruit juice concentrates for those products. So even though you eat and drink those things, you might not be aware that there is an affiliation with Austria. So as mentioned, those visible brands, they are important, but they do not make up the bulk of business. An area that is very important is, of course, the infrastructure and construction industry. And Egypt is probably one of the most active countries currently, with big mega projects, construction sites going on all over the place. And the more technical those projects are, the more high quality, the more difficult they are, then Austrian companies come into play. There is a very famous formwork solutions company called Doka, and they are basically taking part in all the big projects here in Egypt whenever quality, high technological solutions are an issue. So we are talking about El Alamein City, the towers, we are talking about the Cairo Metro, we are talking about the Rod El Farah Cable Stayed Nile Bridge, we are talking about the Grand Egyptian Museum, you name it. So they are everywhere, and they are only visible if you know what you're looking for, because they put their signboard on top of it during the construction phase, but if you don't look, you don't know. In addition, I guess all of you have taken the Egyptian railway at some point going to Alexandria or to Upper Egypt. That is certainly an experience. Most of you will not know, however, that many of the tracks, when they were laid or when they are maintained, are done so by an Austrian machinery. So this is the company called Plaza and Teurer. They are the market leader for this kind of machinery, and they are trying to make sure that the tracks are ready, that the railways are safe and secure. Talking about security, we are coming to another famous Austrian company named Rosenbauer, and they provide systems for firefighting and disaster relief. So if you are at the airport, you will see their trucks. If you are in an industrial plant, petrochemical plant, you will see their trucks, and they are sought after worldwide. So that draws us closer into the area of industrial applications where you don't see the brand anymore if you don't know that it's there. A very big current example is the project by the Austrian company FHW, Franz Haas Waffelmaschinen, and they are providing machinery and the whole setup and the solutions for a whole industrial plant for the production of wafers, of biscuits and crackers. And once this is finished, those wafers, biscuits and crackers will be a nutritious, healthy snack for many Egyptian school pupils all over the country. This is an ongoing project and should be finished hopefully next year. As mentioned, Egypt is of course famous for the steel industry, and the steel industry needs high quality input products. So whenever the Egyptian steel industry is looking for refractory materials, they are going to the Austrian company RHI Magnesita, the world leader in that, and purchase it from them. If they have any demand for heat treatment furnace facilities, again, they look to Austria and they get it from Ebner Industrieofenbau. Another product, cast rolls for shaping the steel, are provided by the Austrian company Eisenwerk Sulzau Werfen. So if you're not working in the steel industry, probably none of the three names will be familiar for you, but if you're in the steel industry, you will probably know all three of them. In addition, we have the Austrian company Fronius that is offering innovative solutions for robotic welding, manual power sources, and welding automation. In Egypt, they are particularly active in the oil and gas sector. When we talk about the oil and gas sector, oil and gas always needs seamless steel pipes, and there is no better provider than the Austrian company voestalpine Tubulars. Moving on to the plastic industry, we have a lot of stretch wrap film lines provided by Austrian company SML, and packaging is important. We see a lot of packaged products here in Egypt. And we have the Austrian company Alpla that does the development and production of plastic packaging solutions in Tens of Ramadan city. You know probably when you use detergents, when you use pharmaceutical products, you have those plastic bottles with disclosures, and they are. This seems to be an easy, simple product, but it's actually not, and this is produced by an Austrian company. Energy, of course, is an issue. Egypt now is in a very good situation, but the last few years saw many projects in the energy area. One of the famous ones was the new Asyut Barrage project, and the famous Austrian company Andritz Hydro provided bulb turbines, they provided generators, electromechanical auxiliary systems, and they have many references all over Egypt over many, many years. Everybody knows the three big Siemens combined cycle plants. I'm not pretending that Siemens is Austrian, we all know it's German. However, the transformers in those plants are provided by the Austrian subsidiary, and we like to think that the transformers are the most important part in the factory. Coming to renewable energy, we have a very innovative new product called SunPad. It's a water heater, a solar water heater solution for the rooftop, and that's provided by Green One Tech, and they entered the market last year successfully by first starting to participate in one of our trade missions here in 2019. A big issue in Egypt always has been, and I believe will continue to be, the sector of water and supply of water. And I'm very happy to mention the next reference, because the company is based very close to my home village in Austria. It's called GLS Tanks International, and that's a company that provides highly sophisticated glass-lined steel storage tanks that are used to hold water. And they have reference projects in Galala city, for instance, but also the new administrative capital. So they help not to spoil so much water. Anybody in the water industry knows of Andritz pumps and submersible motors. They have been in Egypt for many, many decades and continue to participate in many projects. In addition, we have lots of Austrian companies that are active in the area of water treatment and wastewater treatment. To name one is the famous company VA Tech Wabag. Last but certainly not least, let me mention a project and a company in the health sector. Austria is home to the very innovative company Medel. Medel offers cochlear implants and hearing solutions that are mostly applied and used for small children and babies. So they help them regain hearing, improve their hearing. So I believe that's a very nice project to end on. So I could have mentioned many more projects. Time does not allow. However, I encourage you to let us know. Do you have a business idea? Do you have a plan to upgrade your infrastructure in a factory? Are you looking for a partner? Are you looking to develop new ideas? I'm not saying just look exclusively to Austria, but don't forget about Austria. Let us know. We're here to help you. As mentioned, Austria and Egypt are making this project successful together. It's a win-win situation. Both sides have to pitch in, and we are very eager to find Austrian companies in case you have a new project. Let us know. We're only a phone call away, an email away, and we help you find the right Austrian company so that next time we can present even more successful projects. Thank you so much, and if you'd like to know more, please let us know. We are always eager and happy to brag about Austrian companies. Shukran.